would you believe it is the 100th show of the Working Lunch? We've been here for 20 weeks now, 20 weeks exactly today. My very, very special guest today is Ian Partington. Let me just bring Ian up here. And Ian, good afternoon. How the devil are you?
Afternoon.
How's life?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks very much for that musical intro. Much appreciated.
Well, you know, I want to make people feel at home. And
Stereotypical Manc music. I love it.
Yeah, well, you can't go wrong. I mean, would you have chosen something else? What would have been your choice for an intro? What's your walk-on music?
If you're gonna be stereotypical Manc, I'd probably go more for Stone Roses. I'm a big fan of the Happy Mondays, but I'd probably go more Stone Roses than the Happy Mondays. But
okay,
that's not a bad start. It's not a bad start.
So, Ian, I can see the sun's beating through your window there. You must have good weather right now.
It's just started to come through now. It's absolutely blowing, as you would call it, a hoolie.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the sun has started to shine now, as it always does on the righteous.
Well, well, in which case, it's been pissing down all morning in Glasgow. So I don't know what that says about me. But let me just.
I'm not sure.
Now, so we should have some guests coming on. I say guests coming on. People coming in who are joining us. There's a bunch of people that are. Can you say hi, everyone who's in the chat bar? Everyone who's joined us this afternoon. I can see we've got Richard, Martin, Shafiq, Erica, Craig, and more. Erica's joined us. Happy 100th episode. So at this point, I should say a huge thanks to all the people who have been hosts and guests on the show. So amongst the hosts, we have this was started by Louise Trines and Claire Bush 20 weeks ago. I was quickly roped in at the beginning as well. And in addition to that, we've got Graham Palfrey-Smith, we've got Shafiq, we've got Erica Clifford, we've got James. I'm going to get his name wrong. I was going to say Whiteford, but I know I've got that wrong. But we have in total about 10 people who have been hosts over the past 20 weeks. And obviously 100 shows, 100 guests. So Ian, you are number 100. How do you feel about being at the top of the shop?
It's probably the biggest honour of my life.
Well,
no, it's good. It's good. I have been watching quite a number of the shows, and I've always enjoyed it. So to be on the 100th one, it's good.
Fantastic. Now, Ian, I understand that you have of late become a man of leisure. How's that been for you?
It's been strange. I've never done it before. One of my ambitions was always to have a month off.
Yeah.
And in 30 years of working, I've never achieved that. But I've just finished now having about 6 weeks off. So I've enjoyed it. Yeah, it's been good. The only thing that would have made it better is the ability to be able to travel abroad and enjoy the sun. I'm a big fan of the sun. To travel abroad, but that wasn't to be. I'm not going to get too upset about that. But I haven't done a great deal. I've just relaxed, reflected, and started to think about what I'm going to do next.
Fantastic. I dream of having a month off. I don't think I've ever done it. Although during lockdown, I'm sure people who are on furlough.
I didn't pick the best time to do it. This wasn't the best. This wasn't the best time to do it. If I had my time again, I'd try and do it at a different time. But there you go. I've enjoyed it nonetheless.
If you could pick anywhere in the world to go and spend a month other than here, where would it be?
Well, I've never been to Australia, and again, that's on the bucket list of places to go to. So if I could have gone to Australia and done a bit of a tour around there, then that would have been great. I have been fairly fortunate to travel to a lot of places, but I've never been that far east.
Yeah. I'd never been to Australia until last year. I was doing work for a company in Melbourne. So when they offered me the gig, they said, there is one catch, you're going to have to come to Melbourne for a fortnight in the middle of summer.
I hate it when people offer you those sort of things.
It was murder. So, Ian, we've known each other for 20 years now, and you have as much or more experience in the job board sector than pretty much anyone I know. There's really only a handful of people that have been at it for longer than you, and most of the people who did it earlier than you, they are now not in the game. I think really the only one about the same would be Lee at CV Library. So in terms
Yeah.
of experience from pretty much before job boards got established to now, that's a long time, and you'll have seen a huge amount of development in that time. Can I ask, talking about job boards, what was the online landscape when you were looking at setting up your first job board in, what was it, 98, 99?
Yeah, 98, 99, yeah.
So what
Was it like?
Yeah.
Well, it was obviously a hell of a lot different. I think it was still a very, very new space. I was working for a recruitment agency at the time. We did engineering. We did engineering recruitment, and we were using sites like Monster and JobSite and sites like that. So it was mainly outside of IT. It was mainly generic job boards. There was quite a number of IT niche job boards, but there was at that time it was mainly your generic. So Monster, JobSite, Total Job, Stepstone. Yeah. As Stepstone was in the UK then, you might remember him advertising and sponsoring the cricket and stuff like that. But it was very little in terms of niche job boards at the time, which is why that's the sort of the avenue that we took when my first job board was a site called Just Engineers. So that's why we sort of moved down the niche route, because there wasn't a lot of niche activity.
But what made you think that would be a goer? That there would be enough jobs and business to satisfy a new job board in a niche sector?
Well, the reason why we chose niche, as I say, because there was a lot of generic job boards. It also seemed, and it was true, but it also seemed that it would take a lot of money to set up a generic job board, unless you were going to take a longer term view. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak on behalf of Lee. I don't know how much Lee initially put into the business. He always tells you he was a carpet fitter and didn't have a lot of money, but he obviously did it for the long run. But the reason why we chose niche, as I say, is because it was engineering recruitment is what we knew. As I say, we're using the other sites. Engineering wasn't being served by any sort of generic niche job board at the time, so we thought, let's have a go. Doesn't seem too hard. It seems quite easy to put a website together and make a job board.
So essentially, you were speaking the same language as people who would be advertising on your site. You were one of those advertisers.
Yeah, we were. Yeah. And the reason why the one for engineering is because if you looked at JobSite, there was a ridiculous amount of engineering roles on there, and it was the same on. It was the same on a lot of the other generic boards, but in particular on JobSite. JobSite was very, very strong in the engineering industry at the time as a generic site. So that's why we thought, well, there's plenty of jobs out there. We know there's plenty of jobs out there. So let's have a crack at it.
Yeah. I'm just seeing Debbie on the side says she can't hear me. I take it you can hear me all right.
I can hear you.
Okay. So, Erica, turn up your microphone, your speakers. But so going back to the niche sites, going back in the midst of time, JobServe was obviously one of the earliest, and it was maybe not by design, but by default was an IT specialist sector. And any development that you see in job boards since then have almost always been led by people in the IT sector, because I suppose IT people are the logical candidates that you imagine being online in the first place. When you were looking at engineers back then, were you expecting engineers to be online looking at job adverts and finding them, as opposed to IT people who are sitting at a PC all day? We did, really, because obviously, as I say, we were a recruitment agency that were using job boards, and we were starting to get more and more candidates that were coming through that route, not the old sending us a fax of their CV or anything like that. It was coming through email. I mean, when we first set up Just Engineers, I think I'd only been using email for about 3 or 6 months or something like that. So it was it was all fair. Everything was new technology for me. But there was definitely a turn of engineers who were becoming quite savvy to using job boards. Mm-hmm. I've just turned up a microphone here. I hope that's going to help for people that are listening. So when you're setting up, you then went on to set up a string of niche job sector boards, everything from aviation to sales and marketing. When you're looking at setting up in a niche sector, what's the main thing that prompts you to think there's an appetite for this as a market?
Well, it's probably three things that you look at, really. The number of jobs in each sector. If you look at generic boards, for example, how many jobs are being advertised in each sector? Are they direct employer? Are they recruitment agency jobs? Then you look at, are there any niche sites out there that serve those marketplaces currently? And also, is it I made this mistake quite early on of not doing this. Is it a definable market? So if you look at sales and marketing, which were the first niche sites, there you go. You sound much better now. Okay. If you look at sales and marketing, which were the first, some of the first niche sites that we set up. Whilst there was lots of jobs, whilst there was lots of job seekers, it wasn't a definable market. Pretty much any business could recruit sales or marketing people. But when you look at law, when you look at aviation, when you look at automotive or whatever it may be, then obviously they're a much more definable market. So you know who your customers are.
Yeah. So I remember years ago, as a friend of mine was a legal recruiter in Scotland, and every single client there was a big book of the Law Society, so every client was listed there, and every single lawyer was listed there. So it was a potted market, and when you look at a market like that where literally you can get a book of all your contacts, then that's fantastic. But when you're looking at sales and marketing, as you say, every company has someone in sales and marketing, and every company is looking to recruit people for those sectors, even if they're in any number of industries. So it
made lead generation very difficult. It made lead generation very difficult. And what happened is then you tend to, what was happening was that job boards were just trying to basically steal off each other. So we knew that our competitors were looking at our sites, and we were definitely looking at generic sites to see who was advertising on there. As soon as you saw a new advertiser, you'd ring up. Very, very unsophisticated way of doing lead generation. But then we started to look at things like SMEs, seeing which were the size of SMEs, which marketplace, or medical, pharmaceutical, things like that had a lot more requirement for ongoing sales. And then that sort of gradually moved into these telesales marketplaces and what have you. But very, very difficult to define the market, which made it very difficult to undertake lead generation for them.
Yeah. In the earliest days of job boards, and I don't want to go on about the olden days too much, but in the earliest days, it seemed to people who were advertisers, to people who were employers or agencies, that there was some sort of IT magic going on. But I know from discussions with you and with other people that in the back end of the job board, there'd be a lot of running around, copying and pasting, transcribing faxes coming in with jobs on them. What was it like in those days in the the first 5 or 10 years of job boards?
I'm feeling very old in this conversation already, Stephen.
Remember,
it was absolutely that. I think I can say this without any sort of recrimination or any sort of threat of legal action. But when we were setting up Just Engineers, we had a team of internal people. You do it in a far more technological way now. And we were copying and pasting CVs into Just Engineers database. So this is 20 years ago. I'm sure I can't get done for doing this now. But if I can, I've said it. We were doing all that type of stuff. And then we were also, you're absolutely right. We used to get fax CVs coming through to us that we'd then scan and put onto the database. Or we had staff that used to basically retype the CV out into a database. We had jobs being sent to us by customers that we'd then copy and put onto the site, because the customers were less sophisticated as well. So they didn't. Some of them didn't have email, or they certainly didn't have websites that we could copy and paste this stuff from. So there was a lot of, I think what they call them now, concierge work going on. Back there, absolutely, definitely.
I remember when I started in recruitment in '87. A lot of new clients that I would get, I would have to explain what an agency was. They hadn't used an agency before. But you would have had that with job boards, where there's a lot of companies who'd never advertised online before. So you had to explain, look, this is what we do. in the earliest days, then it seemed like it was a straightforward replication of what was happening in newspapers. You would get what looked like a lineage advert in the Glasgow Herald, for example, or the Telegraph, and that would be online. But it must have come on leaps and bounds since then. It must be that the job adverts are more sophisticated.
Well, that's how we used to sell it. We used to sell it and say, we're not a recruitment agency. We're basically, instead of spending, and we were doing this ourselves. Instead of spending thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds in the Telegraph or the local, the Manchester Evening News, where I was from, for a lineage advert, it was hundreds of pounds for a lineage advert. So we used to basically say, look, you can take out, just so the customer understood it, you can take out a lineage advert, which was basically a text advert. You can take out a semi-display advert, which had a logo, or you can take out a full display advert, which had a logo and the background was basically your company colours. Yeah. And that's how they understood it. So that's how they understood it. So that's how we used to sell it. But we sold it on the basis of it's a lot cheaper than print advertising.
Yeah. So your comparison for value would be what they were doing in newspapers, and of course the return in terms of number of applications and caliber of applications.
And the speed as well, because again, you had to wait until the job section come out in the Manchester Evening News, or most of the newspapers was on a Thursday. If I remember rightly, the job section was on a Thursday. And in the Manchester Evening News, it used to be really, really thick. But if they advertised a job on Friday, they'd have to wait obviously the following week. And we said, well, you could have had loads of applications by then. So that's the way we sold it.
So in terms of quality of adverts, we know that for years people have talked about whether it was newspapers or online. The caliber of adverts that's essentially the content on your site, as any job board would be. And if people are putting on terrible adverts, then it's going to make the job site look bad. To what extent would you be coaching or training customers or advertisers to make better adverts that would work?
Yeah, I think this is something that most of the job board world is only really starting to wake up to over the last couple of years or so. If I'm being honest, I'll only speak for myself, we never really monitored the quality of the content going onto the site as much as we should have done. We did, but it was more when we got notified that there was a rubbish advert on. Then we got a letter. I got a letter through from I can't remember what the association was, because one of our Middle Eastern customers had basically put an advert on for a VVIP cabin crew. And they basically said must be blonde, must be 5'10", must be, and obviously we hadn't checked stuff like that we know in Europe you're not allowed to put anything like that. Of course. But I think in terms of the quality of content, we've never really done that. But I have seen, and we were definitely doing it, a big change over the last couple of years, where there's a lot more control being taken over the quality of the content that's going on the sites. If recruitment agencies need to understand that putting a job on once in multiple locations in multiple categories is not going to work. Putting jobs on with lots of we used to have jobs on Simply Sales jobs that says the job title was, do you want to drive a Porsche? And things like that. That we were of the opinion, well, that's what they want to advertise it as. That's what they want to advertise it as. Which is why I think there's a move more now from job boards, to get content directly from direct employers. And in all truth, I think and again I can say this because I've moved away now, but if the recruitment agencies don't get wise to this soon, I think they'll find themselves being left behind by job boards. I think Indeed have already done it, for example. If you want to advertise on Indeed, you've got to do it in a sponsored way. They don't scrape your content anymore. They're very heavy on direct employers. They're very heavy on looking at the quality of the content that's on there, the job descriptions. And then, of course, there's businesses like Get Optimal and things like that being set up now to help recruiters do better jobs with job descriptions and what have you. Yeah.
Is it possible for job boards to read or have a system to read the content of every advert that goes on?
Well, I dare say it is. I think, if I remember rightly, I think JobServe used to employ quite a lot of people who used to vet every single job before they set it live, and I'm talking a lot of people. But they were making some good money, so that was they could probably afford it. I dare say there are technical ways of doing it. I just don't think until recently job boards have been that bothered about it. In truth, I think it was one of these content is king, which it absolutely is. But I think it was content in terms of volume as opposed to quality.
Yeah. I remember years ago advertising in a newspaper, and they refused to post an advert in the newspaper because the description was we were looking for someone who was good with their hands or nimble fingered, because it was working in a factory making RAM memory for PCs. But they said, well, that's clearly you're looking for a woman for the job. You can't say nimble fingered or good with your hands. They eventually settled on we were allowed to put must be manually dexterous, which of course candidates at that level are not going to know what manually dexterous means in the first place. But would you have a negotiation with clients who had written something and you'd say, no, you can't say that?
Well, I think if you look into it, you can do. I mean, a lot of the time, again, just with Simply, is that we found out if people weren't advertising things in the right way when we were looking at them from a client success perspective, and we'd say then, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? I guess from a print perspective, it was a lot easier because you had to check every advert before it went into the publication. I think what made it a lot harder, I'm not blaming this, but I think what made it a lot harder was things like multi-posters, who used to just be thousands and thousands of jobs going onto the site every single day through a multi-poster, and I think it just made the quality probably suffered because of that. And I just think that now that job seekers are far more sophisticated in what they're doing. They know what they want. They know, more importantly, what they don't want. And I don't want to be seeing this. I don't want to be seeing the same job advertised 5 or 6 times. And I certainly don't want to see the same job 5 or 6 times on 7 or 8 job boards. What is the point? I'm going to go to the job board that gives me the best quality content that suits my requirements. So I do think it's a challenge for job boards that they've got to find a way of improving the content levels, even if that reduces the content levels.
No, we know that the business models and the billing models of job boards can have a big effect on how people use a service. And we also know that recruitment agencies, recruitment consultants are sneaky buggers and always looking to work around things. So if you were offering a package that was unlimited advertising but pay a certain amount each month, or you can post 100 slots each week, but they'll take down and replace jobs on a regular basis. What ways would you employ that would try and keep the quality up and keep agencies from being cheeky buggers?
It would have to be a fixed number of credits. Whether you're doing that as a one-off payment, whether you're doing it as a subscription package. Again, I'm talking from experience where we did used to offer. We did innovative, where we did used to offer. We did used to offer unlimited advertising, but it did get taken advantage of, should we say? But then, as I say, the quality starts to reduce. As time went on, we started to then look at more at slots, which is basically you had 50 slots, but then the recruitment agencies became very innovative with, well, I'll change my slots every single day, every single week, every single whatever it may be. We then just changed it to a pure credit system. How many jobs do you think you need at any one time? If it's 10, we'll give you 10 credits. If you need more, we can sell you more, and we can work the package based on that. And if you need less, we'll sell you less, and we'll do it. But that's what we're going to give to you. But the problem is, when you've been around for a long time and customers have been used to having unlimited or slots, getting them onto a credit package then is extremely difficult.
Is it still the case that employers and agencies are charged different rates for posting the same advert?
I think it is, There tend to be different packages. Again, I'm only speaking from my experience. they advertise different packages. So a recruiter would buy, I don't know, 5 jobs a month, or they might even buy 10 jobs to be used over the next 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
Whereas a recruitment agency wants 10 jobs a month, it wants 15, 20, 30 jobs a month.
Yeah.
And they also want CV database access, which
of course,
a lot of the time, again, in the niche that we've been involved in, the recruiters tend not to want to bother with the CV database if they don't want time to do that. And we had a product, I think a lot of job boards have it, called CVs by email, where we push candidates to them, but they didn't want to use it for actually actively searching. So they were slightly different packages. But in our experience, if a recruitment agency who didn't work in the automotive sector but one advert to post, they would pay the same as a direct employer.
Okay. Because the reason I'm asking is from a candidate's point of view, and obviously I'm also thinking from a Nora's perspective. And I should say, Ian's now that you're not tied up elsewhere, there's no conflict. So Ian's now a judge in the Nora's for this year, for the first time. Welcome to the team. But looking at it from a candidate's perspective, I would want to not do away with agency adverts altogether, because there's huge value in agency adverts. But on S1 jobs, for example, you can filter just employers or just agencies. And I'd want to know who an agency was advertising for. Now, agencies, for obvious reasons, they often don't want to say who their clients are. But the identity of the clients is normally already out there. But do job boards, or should job boards be encouraging agencies to name the client as much as they can, because it gets better results and it's better for the candidates?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's 2 things here. One is, and again, is maybe being innovative. Recruitment agencies will advertise jobs, and yes, they want to hide the name of the company and what have you. But if they put a postcode of where the job's based, then it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out who that customer is, unless on a retail park or something like that. So I think that's one part of it. But there's also the recruitment agencies being innovative, also advertise jobs that maybe are not actually live jobs. I think that's a practice that's been used for quite a while. We had different sites had different views. We had on aviation job search, for example, we had recruitment agencies who were more than happy to tell you that this was working for whoever airline it might be or whatever it is.
Yeah,
because they were. Well, I think there's kudos for it, and also they'd obviously tied up contracts whereby not many other people could come in and steal that business even if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's sales recruitment, it's a completely different game. People recruiting for salespeople might use 4 or 5 different agencies at a time.
Yeah. And if you say the name of the employer, the candidate might go and apply direct to the employer. So you would want an agreement with the employer that they would return those candidates.
I think I read something the other day that I think it's something like 87% of job seekers. I can't remember the survey, so I could be wrong here, but 87% of job seekers will look at an employer's site directly, or they'll use something like LinkedIn or Glassdoor or whatever it may be to see what that company's like. So and the danger is that they will apply for that job directly with the company. So you just become a branding agent, as the job boards become a branding exercise for the recruiter.
What I've always wanted to see agencies doing, and I suppose it's the RPO model, is that an agency advertises in the name of the employer. So they'll post an advert as IBM or Jaguar, and it appears it's the employer that's advertising it, but they're taking all the candidates coming.
Yeah.
So
I don't think there's anything wrong. That's just part of that's just a service, isn't it? That they obviously offer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Flipping over, one other aspect that you touched on before that I'm really interested in is the CV database. Now, the CV database is you were saying the agency, and I was surprised actually that agencies focus less on the CV database and want to post ads. Whereas if I was on a job board, then I'd be going through the CV database with a fine-tooth comb.
Just my experience with the niches that we were involved in, the direct recruiters tended not to use the CV database in much lower numbers, whereas obviously the recruitment agencies used it pretty much every day. They absolutely, in some cases, it was absolutely hammered. They had CVs by email set up, and they were just getting, obviously, and again, our customers were quite open about this, that they and this is obviously pre-COVID, But when it was more of a job seeker market, they used to get people coming in at 7:30, 8:00 in the morning, and it was basically first of the candidate got out into the market, and obviously that's changed. That's completely. Well, I say completely. It's to a great degree. That's flipped now. But it was who first up, best dressed in terms of working with a candidate.
Yeah.
So that's why they were all over the CV databases. But so that's why the recruitment agencies used it more, and the direct employers tended not to use them really.
I know. In the earliest days, that if an agency had access to a CV database, then they would hoover up as many CVs as they could, so it was on their own ATS, and they could then search, without any additional cost. I take it when you've got access to a CV database, there are limits on how many candidates you can be viewing or downloading.
Yeah, again, lessons that we learned over time. First of all, it was unlimited searches, unlimited downloads, and these CVs don't come for free, and it became a very expensive thing. We then turned it into basically a credit-based system. How many CVs do you think you're going to be needing to? It was unlimited searching, but we used to charge per actual CV download.
So download as opposed to a view, because I sometimes would view a CV on a job board, and I wouldn't download it, but I would copy and paste what was in front of me on the screen.
Oh, so you were being very innovative then, were you, Stephen?
That if I'll call it being cheeky. But and I would imagine that plenty of others would be doing the same.
We used to give a view, which obviously took out the contact details and what have you. But if you've got anything about you, you could find that candidate on LinkedIn and what have you. Yeah, there's not a great deal you can do about that, unfortunately. It's just when the CV was actually downloaded in Word format or whatever PDF format, that's when we charge for it.
One thing I'm always really conscious of is that candidates are often, they're not too switched on by by what content they should or shouldn't have on their CV, and often they're sharing on their CV a lot of information that's unnecessary. It might be their driving license number, passport number, national insurance number, their wife's name, basically all the information that you would need to rob someone's ID. If I was one of these sneaky guys who was stealing IDs, then I would take out an account with one of the major generalist job boards and just sift through, run a search for national insurance number, see who's put that in there, and get that information. With most job boards, there isn't a barrier to entry to getting access to those CVs. Would you say that there should be? Because there's a lot of personal information in there.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, these days, if you're putting all that data into your CV, then, and I'm sure people still do, but I guess it's probably going to be a lot less than it probably was 10 years ago, maybe, because of all the sneaky things you've been talking, you just mentioned there. But it's difficult. I don't know how you would then promote that service. If you can have our CV, but then you can't see the data that's in there. I don't know how that works.
Well, if you had a system, when someone uploads a CV, if a job board was able to,
I'm not into the criminal world like you, Stephen. Clearly.
Well, no, I've got an active imagination, but. If a CV was uploaded and you detected that there was a driving license number in there or a passport number or national insurance number,
absolutely,
so the format of the number that you would either
should block those sort of things out. Those sort of we didn't do it. We put. I can speak from my experience, but I think there probably is a bit more of an onus now on job boards to sort of blank that information out completely. In the same way as they blank out an email address when a job just in a job description, that quickly gets blanked out. So the technology is there to do it. I just don't. I say from my perspective, I've never seen the reason, or it's never come up as an issue. Even 2 years ago when we were going through all the GDPR, it never came up. It never came up with GDPR. To my recollection.
Yes, these are all personally identifiable information. So, but even if you were able to say to a candidate, "We see you've uploaded your CV and you've included, these things. Would you want to redo your CV and upload that, or are you okay with it?" Giving them the option. Sometimes, if you're a contractor, then you absolutely want to have it in there because you're sharing more information because you know that the agency that's going to employ you on the other end will ask for that straight away. But yeah, given the candidates, the option is the thing.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right. Yeah.
One other thing while we're on that, and I don't want to sound like I'm giving you a hard time. It's not you. It's in general. And if the industry is going to modernise, then I do think that these would be steps to doing that. And given you mentioned GDPR there, if I was registered with one of the job boards, any job board, and ABC recruitment agency looked up my CV and had a peek, they might have looked at it, they might have downloaded it. I would hope that I would get a notification, or there would be a log on my file that when I logged in, I could see who's looked at my CV. I think that would be fair. Would that be a fair thing to expect?
I think so, yeah. Again, I don't know many job boards that do that. I think there's job boards. I remember JobSite in particular used to do it, where it said how many people had viewed your CV, but it didn't go into specifics of who that company was or who that person was.
Yeah,
there may be people listening who know more about that than I do. But I think more so. But it also depends on if it's just for GDPR purposes, and that's absolutely fine. If it's so you're doing a CV search and you find out that I've looked at your CV, if that then opens up the door to you contacting me directly because I've had a quick scan of your CV, but you're absolutely not relevant for what I'm looking for. Yeah, I personally think that would put, and definitely at the moment would put a lot of recruiters off. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you would have to make it clear to candidates. Look, someone might be looking at your CV and they've decided that they're looking at thousands of CVs, decided that you're not what they're looking for today. But they've had a look. But from a GDPR point of view, if you're looking to not so much control, but be aware of who has seen your information.
Well, it's in the privacy statement. It's in the privacy policy that your details, once you've uploaded them, they are available to recruiters who are looking on the CV database. It's there that data could be used with the purpose of finding you a job, not the purpose of downloading your credit card details or your national insurance number or whatever way that you would use it. But that's in the privacy policy.
It was the case on the government website, Universal Job Match, who incidentally, on the 13th year of the Noras, I'm looking around because I've got the trophy there, they won the wooden Nora for the shitiest job board in the country award. And so,
did they not come and pick it up?
They didn't come and pick. I've still got it sitting there. But the wooden Nora was won by them. But on Universal Job Match, which was incidentally built by Monster, but no blame to Monster. Monster know how to build a job board, but the civil servants told them, forget everything that you know. This is what we want. Anyway, on that job board, they had all sorts of abuse.
Paid a shitload of money to do it.
Yeah, £17 million, if I remember correctly. But the tricks that we're getting up to on there were famous. Loads of the commission-only vacancies, loads of fishing, expeditions where they were just hoovering up CVs and ostensibly CV writing services, but they were literally just looking to hoover up as much personal information as possible, and no checks on who was posting the jobs in the first place. On that, when a candidate puts their CV on a CV database on a job board, then I've always said to people that there's no barrier to anyone looking at that. There's no vetting going on of it. If you pay the job board, you've got access to it. Some job boards will have your details obfuscated until you give permission for someone to look at your CV, which is great. But for the most part, if you put your CV in a job board, it's as public as putting it on a lamppost in the street. You're sharing your details with anyone who pays to get access.
Well, I think this overall thing is about how probably job boards need to evolve technically moving forward. If you look at job boards historically, and probably now, a majority of them, not all, a lot of them though, are sales and marketing operations. And technology. Because if you look at the technology that's on most job boards now, and again, I use my own experience as well. It's the same technology that was there 10, 15 years ago. You post a job, your CV database search, jobs by email alerts, CVs by email alerts, CV database, all that type of stuff. It's never really moved on. And I think that's going to be a challenge for a lot of job boards moving forward, as particularly around the communication of job advertising or jobs that you've got. I mean, my daughter's 19, so what I've learned from her is that she doesn't use email apart from when she has an email, but that's only because she needs email to set up on boohoo.com or whatever she's buying clothes from.
Yeah.
She communicates on WhatsApp with me. That's it. Nobody else.
Yeah.
She does all the communication on Snapchat, Instagram, things like that. And this is a real challenge, not just for job boards, but for job boards, in how are you going to communicate with, like I say, my daughter, she's going to university. But when she comes out of university and she starts to look for jobs and what have you, how are you going to communicate with these people who don't check their emails all the time, who don't really use iMessenger or anything like that? They're using social media to message each other. How are you going to get it? Can be done, but I'm not aware of many job board. I speak to a lot of job board owners, operators, directors.
Yeah.
And again, I include myself, about a plan about how you're actually going to do that. Because it's not happening in 5 years' time. It's happening now.
Yeah. Well,
that's a real challenge.
So on that, if you've got people who, your daughter who's 19, she's not using email at all unless, in an extreme circumstance. Won't it just be the case that, as she enters the world of work, that she'll have to start using email because, or should the industry bend to her or the other way around?
Well, I think there's probably bending both ways. I think you're right. She's been chasing up her, obviously it's in the news, she did a higher level course. She doesn't even know what her results are yet. She's meant to be going to Salford Uni in September. She doesn't even know what her results are, whether she's passed the course to be able to do it yet. So she has been using email to communicate with the tutors and the bodies and what have you.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about convenience and where job seekers are looking and what have you, that's where they're looking. That's where they're communicating all the time. So they have to proactively go to email. So I think there's probably bending both ways. I think you're right, Stephen.
Yeah.
I think there's bending. You're not going to completely stop using email because there's people of our age and people of a lot older than 19 who still look to use email for job searching. But you've definitely got to be aware of it, surely.
Yeah. So in job boards in the near future, what would you say would be the key technological or model developments in how job boards work that people will see?
I think it's just really important that job boards become a bigger part of the recruiting solution for employers. If they are going to start moving towards the direct employer marketplace, you can't just provide CVs or give them a CV database to search for themselves. You've got to become more, I think, deeper into the recruitment cycle, the recruitment process. So shortlisting, but not shortlisting. Sifting out poor applications, but not just sifting out based on 3 questions that you ask when you put the job on.
Yeah.
Using some sort of API or whatever it may be, to filter out CVs that are clearly against the job description. They don't match it, so there's no point even putting that person forward. And then the part of the job board ecosystem being that you can shortlist your candidates in there, and some companies do this quite well. But more companies need to do it. You can set up interviews through there. You can do your video interviewing through the platform. You can. It just makes a job board far stickier than they currently are. They're just part of the process at the moment. They're not. And because not all companies use ATSs, not all companies use their own video interviewing software and all the rest of it. If a platform can offer that, because my personal view is that in the times that we're in at the moment, and this has been through any downturn that I've ever been involved in, it's the SMEs who gets the country out of it. It's a small to medium sized companies that are the first to recruit, and they're the ones that have got the wherewithal and the drive to get themselves out of this mess, and they're the ones who are largely, in my view, underserved by job boards because, I say, they've not got an applicant tracking system. They don't know how to do sifting. They don't know how to use CV databases. They don't. You could make a job board better for those people, and that's a route absolutely we were taking before I moved away.
Fantastic. So, Ian, I have 101 or more questions that I could ask you on job boards, and we could yak all day. But I'm conscious of the time. Before we finish up, what have been the things that have been jumping out in the news for you today? You were mentioning your daughter, and that's obviously a big thing. People going to uni from schools and the exams catastrophe and so on. What things have been jumping out in the news to you that are?
That's obviously a big one, really. I mean. I don't profess that this is not a very difficult situation. I do feel sorry for the kids who have been doing their exams now, whether that be GCSEs or A levels or whatever it may be. But to balls it up in such a monumental way, and not only that, but know that you balls it up because you change your mind so quickly. Is just beyond words, really. The teachers are the people that know what these. It unfortunately is, and without getting on a sort of, I'm not going to get into a political rant or anything like that. So that's been bugging me. And I think the other thing that's bothering me, and this is not a new phenomenon, it's happened plenty of times before, is the focus on all the bad news around coronavirus. And yes, there is, the furlough's coming to an end soon, and unfortunately there are going to be a lot more business people going to be out of work. But when I look at LinkedIn at the moment, I'm seeing a lot of people getting work as well. I'm seeing a lot of people getting jobs. They've been out for a little while. They've been on furlough. They've been on redundancy. But they found other work. But there just doesn't, and there never has been, and there probably never will be. But there's never been there's not a balanced view on. I think personally that we will be, early part of next year, things will start to pick up. It's not going to be great, but things will start to pick up. If you look at what happened in 2008. Realistically, that went from October to April, May, and then things started to really sort of pick up again. I'm not, whether this is, I don't know, I'm not an economist, but whether this is going to be the same here, I just think the focus on all the bad news is just pisses me off, in truth.
There will be stop-start for a while, and I see that there's new restrictions on Oldham, Pendle, and Blackburn. Is coming out, and Birmingham is on a watch list.
Well, they should be. That should happen because again, you're seeing in Oldham these parties that are going on, these gatherings that are going on, 100 people at a wedding and what have you. So they absolutely should. The problem is they're tarring everybody with the same. So Preston has been locked down as well. It was a minor spike. That was a week's worth of spike, and everything was shut down. Not just, we need to look in certain areas or certain demographics or whatever it may be. And I think it's this sort of blanket way of dealing with things that causes problems. So like you say, that's just going to make it stop, start.
Yeah. Ian, we have sadly come to the end of time for the regular part of the show. I'm going to say thank you very much for being our 100th
Cheers,
guest.
Stephen. I've enjoyed that.
It's been great to have you on. Definitely have you on again sometime, and hope to speak to you in the pub at some point where we can
very much look forward to that. Yeah,
tell some stories out of school.
Sounds good.
In the meantime, thank you very much. Thanks for
cheers,
for joining
Stephen.
us.
Thank you.
I'm going to invite some of the hosts over the past while on screen just now. So I'll let you go, and I'll invite on some of our hosts over the past 100 shows. So I'll catch you later. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.
Now, if you have been a host or a guest over the past while, I'm going to invite you on screen just now. Shafiq, Debbie, is Claire there? Let's see if we can get Claire on screen. Claire, I hope you are by a PC. There's Shafiq. Shafiq, how are you?
Good.
That's fantastic. So we made it. We got to 100 shows.
You
100
did.
not out.
Amazing.
You've been part of it. I've been part of it. It's been quite a thing over the past 20 weeks. Can you believe it? 20 weeks.
Yeah, I think Debbie and I started being hosts around the same time.
And as if by magic, Debbie appears.
Look at that.
I have so much food in my mouth.
Is it apples? There's Erica. Hi, Erica.
It is apples.
My 18-year-old sister's bedroom, and it's kind of messy, so sorry for that.
Is that what an 18-year-old's bedroom looks like?
Apparently so, and she tidied it for me so I could work at her desk. So this is it on
I was going to say someone's trashed that room.
My idea of tidying something like that was just to put a sheet up top and then, hey, voila.
Well, that's what you need a green screen background for. That would be perfect. Here we have the Women of the Hour, Claire. Claire, how are you today? Claire, you started all this, you and Louise. How do you feel about getting to 100 shows?
I kind of feel like it's a massive road show that we've been on and gathered so many brilliant people along the way. So thank you all as well. I don't think Lou and I actually even imagined that we'd last the week out, let alone 100. I think all of you know the story. The reason why we set it up was both of us were kind of, used to talking to each other anyway, but then the walls were just crumbling around us, and we were kind of thinking, well, I suppose I really thought selfishly, what do I need to kind of keep me focused and on track? Way back when the wheels on the bus fell off, and we now have each other, and this has grown into a phenomenal show. And I know it's been absolutely immensely helpful to lots and lots of people across the community. And I've certainly learned a ton of stuff as well. Thank you all. For being part of it. I kind of feel like I'm a spare part right now, because I don't get on to do this as much as I was. So thank you again as well for filling in the gaps and helping us all out. And Louise is really busy too.
Well, the important thing is that Ian, the important thing at the very start was, so it was going to be you and Louise, and then I got roped in, and there was only so much that we could cover. But at that time we had more free time than normal. But bringing in additional hosts was absolutely key. So Shafiq, Debbie, James, Erica, and Graham, of course. Yeah. So all of that made it possible, and throughout it all, I should say, Ian, I think you've been the most regular.
Show, I think.
Ian's been the most regular viewer in all of that time. I think you might have seen every single show.
I think I've missed about 3 shows during the 100. I've become addicted.
Yeah.
It's my work people now. This is my work community, so I love it.
Well, as you say, Debbie, when you make a connection, especially when you make a connection, across the water, then what happens is their circle of network hooks in with yours. So you've been bringing on guests that I've then connected with on LinkedIn, and I'm sure other people have as well. And you learn more, and you get to see the world from the eyes of someone else, from their perspective, and the ways in which it's the same is always a revelation, as well as the ways in which it's different. And you always learn. You learn that everyone is a lot more similar than they are different. We've all got stuff to do in the day, and coming together weekdays at 1 every day has been it's been that anchor point throughout the last 20 weeks. Now, that's not to say there aren't going to be another 20 weeks, but just in where we've gotten to now, it's a real milestone. And everyone here and everyone who's watching and watches on replay, even just someone who's never registered, who's never come on screen, never done anything but have a quick peek at a replay or a stream that we've sent out to one of the social media channels, everyone's been part of it because it all has an effect. Right now we have 552 registered attendees. Now, it's fair to say they don't all log in each day, but they'll dip in, they'll dip out, they'll get notified of each show that comes around. Some shows will be more or less relevant to them, but that in itself is a community. That's a community of people who are all, one way or another, connected with recruitment, employment, HR, and interested in each other and what we do.
It's quite a really simple concept, I think. When we stepped right back and decided what we were going to do, and it was almost like we were deciding in the morning what we were going to talk about at lunchtime, and we've never really kind of got out of that sort of mirror of looking at what's news today and trying to figure out, well, where's the relevancy and what impact is it going to have. And I think each of the hosts, and also as well the guests that we've brought on, have helped to kind of develop the conversation another stage further, or to take it off in all the avenues that we've definitely come to. I think looking forward for the next 100 days, like the 100 working days, what it'd be really great is that if we can have more of the same, and I know we will, because you guys are all just amazing, and you're really, living and breathing how you're working. And so it all becomes really transparent, becomes really addictive to Ian's knowing and understanding how you're running your own businesses and how you are kind of working your own networks and moving things forward. It's really addictive, because it means that everybody else can kind of jump on the coattails of that, and also weave that into their own daily schedules as well. So I think looking forward, it's going to be interesting to see what comes up. I think it'll be more of the same, but I just love love the fact that it's so dynamic and we can go anywhere.
Yeah.
I think generally also that the area of recruitment, the area of talent, the area of executive search, all the suppliers to the industry, all of us business owners and managers and directors, it's such a vast discipline. It's such a vast profession. And I do like to call it a profession because that's what it is, that there is so much to discuss. And during the 100 shows that we've had, I don't think we've covered half of what we could cover at all.
Yeah.
There are so many different areas of recruitment that we should speak about.
Yeah, yeah,
and debate as well.
Well, so in that show there with Ian, I could have talked for a good 4 or 5 hours. I've got I've got several bones to pick with the job board sector, but mainly because I'm endlessly fascinated by what gets done, how it gets done, particularly from a candidate's point of view, and on any of the topics, on any of the days that we've been into. If we're talking about recruitment marketing, if we're talking about agencies versus in-house, if we're talking about any of the other related subjects, then if we bring on an expert who knows the answers to the maybe even seemingly inane questions that we ask, then we go away sharper than we turned up. And having that touch point in the day, 1 o'clock every day, or is it 9 a.m. for you, Debbie, or 8 a.m.?
8 a.m.
Jeez,
This is commitment because you're here as well. You've been here pretty much every show as well, Debbie.
Yeah, I have my breakfast with your lunch.
Yeah,
it works.
Can I also say
it was just nice to have a structure so that often I used to skip lunch. Now it's like, okay, what am I going to make for lunch, just so I can have it while we're chatting.
I'm hoping that you're just making up some of those lunches because it sounds far too fancy.
No.
I even considered competing and thinking, what can I pretend that I've cooked today? Just
a little stove in the office. I have to say, as the 100th lunch, I think I probably had the nicest lunch of the 100 of those today. It was my son's birthday yesterday, so I kind of dismantled a sort of, party of 4 11-year-olds. And then they were all sort of like, they were up till 2 a.m, and then they got up at 6. Somebody's alarm had been set. So it was a bit chaos, but they came for breakfast, and that was sort of pancakes and waffles and croissants, and it was beautiful, and they were all really like, and then it was like, you know what, actually I'm going to have a really nice healthy salad. I put it down in front of my son, and he just sort of went, no chips. no anything. Beautiful grilled chicken salad with sweet corn and couscous, and it's just lovely. So I've got a bit of salad, I've had a bit of fruit as well. So Debbie, thanks for the influence as always. This morning, but yeah, we kind of had a really nice foodie day already. So
can I say a word or two about the technical side of things? This is the first time we've had 6 people on screen, which is a big deal. At the beginning, we couldn't do any more than 4, so 6 people on screen. I think it looks fabulous. In fact, I'm going to take a screen grab just so that we've got that there. But also, how about those technical glitches over the past 20 weeks? Would have been your worst, Claire?
Oh my god! My first one was when we were on Zoom. We were on a different platform, so we were on Zoom, and I said to Lou just after all, I was like, I was going to go. I had to jump off the show or something like that, and I ended the show.
You did.
And I think I've also as well, I've shared the Zoom link because it was my Zoom link account that started the shows off, and my son went on to his guitar practice on the show, and that kicked us all off as well. So yeah, I think that sort of like eject button, like whoever owns the eject button on these things needs to, kind of, I don't know, do a bit better on their own marketing campaign because it's so easy.
Yeah, there should be a padlock so that no one else can fanny about with the settings while you're on a live show. It
should be as secure as the atomic bomb kind of sequences or something, because it's so easy to press exit and everybody just go.
I'm surprised that in all this time no one else has managed to put a logo on screen.
Definitely not able to do that. That is just beyond technical capability.
What is that tool you're using?
Minicam.
Oh, it's on Minicam. Okay.
Yeah.
The one I couldn't find because I thought it was M-I-N-I, not M-A-N-Y.
M-A-N-Y. And today, because GPS, on tribute to GPS, this is why I've got the loud shirt. I thought I'm got to up my dodgy shirt game. So
we need to have a look at what GPS is wearing.
I'm going to drop out. I'm going to drop out.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same.
Okay.
But yeah.
Come on over, GPS. You stay right here, Ian. Bye, y'all.
Okay. Bye, Debbie. Actually, I don't think Graham could come on. He said that he can't get on screen because he is. Well, I saw that he was logged in with the admin account, so maybe he doesn't have his own login, wherever he is.
What colour is your shirt, Graham, today? Or what is on the shirt? Because I know it's going to be a colour, but it'll be like amazingly detailed with loads of things. And actually, I got my son a Hawaiian shirt based on the fact that I've seen, you guys all wear really good colours. And one of his friends turned around, they'd just been messing about in the paddling pool thing that we bought. Mm-hmm. They got out there and they're kind of 11. And so I thought this was a real brilliant dichotomy of where they're at in their age and development. One of his friends turns around and says to him, "I really like your shirt, Zach. That's really cool. Yeah. Where did you get it from?" And he just goes, "Oh, Mum, like the shop of Mum." Right? Yeah. So then the other friends turn around and they're chatting away. And then I hear my son turn around to the friend who asked about the shirt, and he said, "So which teddies did you bring?" Whole sleepover is happening. They're really starting to think about how they look, how they dress, what their hair looks like. And they're also really interested to know which teddies they brought to sleep over with because they're still so young. So, yeah, I've got that on video and I will be using that later down the line.
Oh, dear. So, we can't go on forever, obviously. I don't mean the show next week and the week after. I mean this afternoon. So can I just mention for anyone else who's watching, next week on the show we have on Monday. So Monday, Erica, it's your last show. You have Craig Mitchell on the show next week. In-house versus agency miniseries, hybrid models. On Tuesday we have Claire, who has not yet confirmed who our guest is going to be, but we'll have to find out who that is. Wednesday, again, we've not filled that in, but Debbie on Thursday next week has Jamila van der Turen. Jamila's sourcing top 5, so that's going to be interesting. And next week I have Neil Ewington on the show this time next week. Any other news to report, Claire, Ian, Shafiq, Erica, anything before we finish up?
I'm just glad. I'll be glad to get Lou back from holiday. It feels like she's been out in the wilderness for years.
She's been skiving.
She's had a really great time off the grid, apparently. So it'd be good to see her and get her back in the hot seat.
Absolutely.
And I think on Wednesday I'll probably be on with David about split fee recruitment.
Oh, okay.
That's exciting.
That'd be interesting.
And 2 weeks' time, I become the official old age pensioner of this show. And,
very good.
Arguably one of the oldest recruiters in the UK, I think. So.
I think you're going to have to write a song about that, Ian. That's
well, fortunately, my birthday's on a Sunday, so I won't get the happy birthday from the crowd.
The oldest recruiter in time.
We might have to do it on the Friday beforehand, hey, Stephen. We can make sure that we've got a shout out for you.
Yeah, we can get some cake in for Mr. Franklin. That'd be great.
Cake.
Excellent. So on that, I'm going to wrap up for today. I'm going to say thank you very much to my very special guest, Ian Partington. Thanks to all the hosts that we have here, all the hosts who aren't with us right now, and everyone who's watching the show live and on catch-up. And please come back on Monday for Erica's show, and we'll see you then. Thank you very much, everyone.
Bye. Have a nice weekend.